We are live.
Okay.
Okay. I'm going to introduce myself and the other people first in Papiamento, our native language, and then we will go to English. Ok, bom tarde, tudo. Nós de entrevista que queremos na enviar mais bombini. Nós temos uma entrevista exclusiva que combina Holanda, Trinidad e Corsol junto. Nós vai papel tocante de refineria de Corsol, refineria de Trinidad e Clash. Então, para esse, nós temos invitado de Corsol, Charles Cooper, parlamentário para MFK, e tradutor de refineria Isla. Nós temos Johnny T. Hut, de também cuida de sindicato de café, agricultura, e nós temos diretamente fora de Trinidad, Ozzy Warwick, de Oil Refinery Union, cuida de sindicato de tradona de refineria de Trinidad. Então, assim nós também papia intercambiar de algum coisa que já para nós está perguntando que o ministério de contesta. Okay, we will like to introduce our guest today. We start with Trinidad. You can introduce yourself to our people.
Sure. My name is Ozzy Warwick. I am the Chief Education and Research Officer and Executive Trustee of the Oilfield Workers Trade Union, which is the trade union is the sole shareholder of the company Patriotic Energies and Technologies Company Limited, which company has won the bid to acquire the Guaracara refinery as well as Paria Trading.
Okay. And we would like to go to Charles Cooper. Introduce yourself to us.
Yes, I'm Charles Cooper, Parliament member of the Parliament of Curaçao, and also now I'm a former worker of the refinery. I have been working there for quite a while, and also I studied petroleum energy, so in Holland and in Venezuela. So that's my background, and I'm very interested in this type of exchange with you of Trinidad.
Okay, and then to Johnny.
Yes, hello, I'm Johnny T. Hut. I'm an adult educator, but also politically involved with Causa Prome. It's a movement to focus on a more humanistic approach for management and policy in Curacao.
Okay.
That's a little about my background.
Okay, thank you. So we have invited you to talk about the refinery of Curacao, our Isla refinery, because we are in the process of selling or looking for another partnership who can, joint venture with us so the refinery can keep open. But now we are in a sort of kind of transition with Clash, the group Clash, and a lot of people of Curacao are very frightened about this deal because it's not an open deal, so that everybody can look inside the deal that they are close, that the government are closing with Clash, and at the other side, Clash has not a good name in the world as a good company. So we have heard a lot of things about Trinidad and about Clash, about things that you were doing together, and that Trinidad has rejected Clash as a buyer of the refinery. So that has triggered us to go to you, so you can give us some of your experience about your refinery and also with your situation with Clash.
Okay, well, thank you very much for having me on this very important interview. I think that this initiative that you have started is important because what we are attempting to do in Trinidad and Tobago is quite historic, and we want to share with our fellow brothers and sisters in the Caribbean to see how we can learn together we do not see the acquisition of the refinery as solely a Trinidad and Tobago thing. We see it as a Caribbean thing. And that is why I'm happy to have the opportunity to have this discussion. I think it is best for me to give a very clear picture of the process so that your listening audience and your viewing audience can be very clear what transpired and how it came to be that we are now in the position that we are in.
Okay.
On the 30th of November 2018, the refinery or the entire petroleum company of Trinidad and Tobago was closed. It is the entire company. The government took that decision. We were against that. We fought an epic battle for the many months leading up to the November 30th, trying to get the government to not close down the entire company. However, with the powers and resources of the state, they took that political decision, and so they closed the company. We were in a pretty serious predicament because it meant that over 4,500 workers lost their jobs. It meant that the southern economy of Trinidad and Tobago would have been shaken by this action, by the action of the government to close the company down. And so we also saw that if we did not intervene, that the refinery and Paria would be sold to either a multinational or to the local elites. And we felt as a trade union, as a people's organization, that we can try to transform the economy whereby a workers' institution like a trade union can actually have ownership of the means of production. And in so doing, the union formed a company called Patriotic Energies and Technologies Company Limited. And with that company, entered the international bidding process. In that bidding process, it started off with some 75 bidders from across the world. That was eventually, in order to evaluate the bids, the government formed an evaluation committee. That committee, having reviewed the various bids, first starting at 75, it was reduced to 25, and then eventually it was just ourselves and two other companies. One of those companies was Clash.
Okay.
Clash was a competitor to us and to our company. Our company is a fully locally owned company. That's the difference. Clash and the other bidder were international.
Yes.
We felt strongly that a refinery should remain in the hands of the local Trinidad and Tobago and not be sold off to an international or a multinational. So this is why we would have taken the bold act. It was bold and it has cost us a lot, but we felt it was an important investment for the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Because if an asset such as a refinery gets into the hands of an international, what they really wanted to do was not so much get the refinery, but to get the port and marine facility so that Trinidad and Tobago would become nothing more than another piece or another cog in their supply chain. And therefore the country would not benefit. So we would have, understanding the situation as it was, recognizing the risk that laid before our people, we took the decision, formed the company, and entered the bidding process. Our bid was far superior to Clash and the others, because these guys, they don't see us as any true partner. They see us as just another third world country that they can use so that they can increase their profit margins. And so what they offered Trinidad and Tobago was literally next to nothing. And because the union's company placed such value and important, now this is important in the learning process for us as Caribbean people, because we place value on the asset as being valuable to our people and our country, we would have gone in there with a fairly substantial bid offer because we value what it is. Clash and the others, they didn't. And so for them, it's just another asset somewhere on an island in the Caribbean. And because of the superior offer we gave, and the reason we did that, and I have to tell you this, some of the financial experts would have said to us, no, maybe you're bidding too high. Maybe we should
But
do like
what was the bidding?
we, in terms of what our offer was,
Yeah.
our offer was about 700 million US.
Okay.
That was the offer. Clash, I can't recall the exact details, but it's some ridiculous thing of something like 40,000 US per month lease arrangement. That is what they were looking at. I mean, that's just chalk and cheese. But we said
it seems familiar to our ears in Curacao.
yeah, you know. So maybe that is what Clash and these guys are doing. They're looking around and seeing where they could where opportunities are for them to take advantage of the situation, because they knew that a refinery which generates foreign exchange is important to an economy of a small island state. They know that.
Yeah.
And they therefore knew that the state itself would be in a fairly desperate position. But what they did not anticipate is that you have a trade union like ours who had the temerity and the will to go after the very same asset, but in order to protect it for our people. That's the difference. So where we are now is that our company was identified on September 20th last year, was identified by the finance minister as being the preferred bidder. Up to as early as, I'm giving you very up-to-date information, as late as on the 15th of January, there was a meeting between the union's company and the evaluation committee, along with 3 government ministers, to finalize our next steps. So our next steps is that the union's company will be engaging in inspection of the facility, because you can imagine a refinery that has been down for over a year, it will require serious detailed inspection. So we are working on having our team come into Trinidad so we can do the inspection, and on the basis of the inspection, we'll be able to determine how much money and how much time is required to bring the refinery back up.
But where are you going to get the oil from?
Well, we have been engaging with a number of discussions with suppliers, some key suppliers, but we are also going to engage in conversations with, of course, Guyana. You know, Guyana is a fellow CARICOM country. And even notwithstanding the current situation in Venezuela, there's some discussions that can be had there. But there are also other international suppliers that we've been engaging with. But Guyana is going to be very key.
Do you people also have a sanction of America on your refinery?
No, we don't have any sanctions. No.
So you are able to negotiate with Venezuela without any problem of the Americans?
Well, you're talking about the unstable, unpredictable Americans.
Yeah.
So we at this moment we do not have any sanctions, so we can begin our discussions. But you never know what the Americans can come with later down the road. But we have to look at other options. We cannot be dependent on one option, because we can end up in problems when something goes wrong with that option. So the key is not to put all our eggs in one basket, but to really have a series of suppliers so that we do not run into difficulties.
Okay. Do anyone else have any question, Charles? I'll start with you.
Yeah. Mr. David.
Mr. Warwick.
Yes.
Okay. What I would like to ask is, what is your capacity of your refinery?
Okay.
And also if you have also oil terminal there, so you can to do let's say as we do here, we have an oil terminal with a capacity of 15 million barrels that we can store.
Okay, thank you. All right, 2 very good questions. First, the capacity of the refinery when it closed was approximately 160,000 barrels per day. We, with the improvements that we are hoping to make to the refinery, when it is back up and running, we are hoping to bring it to full capacity of 176,000 barrels per day. In terms of terminal, and I think I need to make this very clear, the purchase of the refinery is not only the refinery, it's two parts of it. There is the actual refinery itself, but there's also the port and marine. That is the terminaling aspect of it. Our bid is for the both aspects, the refinery as well as terminaling. In terms of terminaling, our tankage we have storage capacity of up to 50 million barrels.
50 million barrels. Wow.
Yeah.
That's huge. Okay, and also I have a question. If you would like, you or a couple of your colleagues in the union who took the decision that you will be able to come to Curacao to give some, let's say, some seminars or speeches for the people here to empower them, because we are giving up our assets to international, to a multinational in this case, and for $1. And when you when you tell them $1, they will say no, not $1, because we are getting such and such 15 million dollars per year. We're getting it back. We're getting on the land lease. There's also a question I have on the land lease, because the Clash Group, let me put it there, when the Venezuelan was, let's say, using the company and they were paying us an amount, it was not a land lease. It was just we were permitting them to do their business. So when the contract is over, then our land is also free up directly. Now with the Clash Group, they want to go to a land lease for 60 years.
Yeah.
And with a lot of risk that the land lease, if Clash Group go bankrupt, let's say within 3 years or 5 years, then let's say the people or the institute who have borrowed money to Clash, they will become the owner for the rest of the 60 years of our land lease. So that is why we are fighting very hard here in Curacao. A group of people is fighting against the, let's say, the
government
mainstream of the government
Yeah.
to change their mind, because for us it is unacceptable what is here on the table. So we want to use your expertise and also, let's say, your help, as you said in the beginning of this interview, that you see it as a Caribbean as a Caribbean thing. So I say, okay, let's do it on a Caribbean way. Then in the future we can work together if we also own our own company, because I tried and I've convinced. I put the numbers. One small question I have: your refinery, what is the margin, the refinery margin that you, because they are been lying to us. When you say they, the Venezuelan have been lying to us, former the Shell have been lying to us. They let us think that our refinery is very inefficient.
Yes.
That we only have a margin of $0.5 per barrel, and that is, if you compare to the U.S. Refineries, the minimal margin, as I see this in the Standard & Poor table or in the Bloomberg table, I see $7, and then I say when I put it like this: our refinery, let's say it is not good, of it is let's say less good than the less of the refinery in the U.S. So I don't put $7, I put $5, and if you multiply that with 200,000 barrels per day and 365 days per year, then we have a huge amount that you can gain with our refinery, and to pay our debt of our nation, you know.
Yeah.
So what is your opinion on what I exposed just now?
Okay, so two things that you would have mentioned. So on the first one, we of course would be very happy and willing to share our experience with our fellow Caribbean brothers and sisters. And it is important that we share information, as I have shared with you, in terms of how Clash was attempting to come into Trinidad and Tobago, because I do see similarities, and I do know we would not have the exact bid that Clash made. But what from pronouncements made by the government, it was clear that it was some lease arrangement. We don't know the details, but it was going to be some lease arrangement. So we see similarities, and that is why it's important for us to approach these issues as a Caribbean. So
Yeah.
I welcome that opportunity, and we will be very much willing and able to come across to Curacao and have that discussion, and of course share our experience.
I'm very glad to hear that.
What I also see is interesting. You mentioned that you all were lied to by the multinationals, in terms of Shell and PDVSA and so on. Let me say this: when they were closing down the company, that is exactly the exact arguments they used to justify the closure, that the refinery margins were too low. But what they didn't tell you, population of Trinidad and Tobago, was that the reason the margins were low had to do with a debt that the company had over its head, so that the company was paying its debt, two debts, one for 700 million and one for 1 billion, and that is what created it. When we did our financials outside of that debt, we see that our refinery can realize exactly as you said, margins between $6 and $7 in terms of margins. You are correct. Refineries can make that amount of margins. So what I do see is it's almost as though at the global level, they are using the same manual, telling us locals that your refinery is inefficient. So because what they want is that our refineries are in a beautiful location in the Caribbean. They want that location. We also have the opportunity as Caribbean people, whereby our refineries are close to the waterline, all right? Because they're islands. And they see, and because of where the Caribbean is positioned between South America and North America, they see the value in that. So what they have done is try to convince us that our refineries are not working and it's inefficient, and therefore our refineries are then sold to international interest, which goes against our own national interests.
Yes.
Great.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that, because Charles Cooper is together with other people telling these things days by days, weeks by weeks, to inform the community of Curacao, because the government is so powerful, and with their background of all the money and all the propaganda that they can do, they are manipulating the truth to the people, and that's why we have think about do some initiative to change the way of thinking and to do the reality, so the people can see that it can be other way.
Yes, you are very correct. That is exactly what happened in Trinidad and Tobago. It was manipulating facts. It was, in other words, it was using an information war.
Yes.
Which convinced the population that they had to close our national oil company down, and then start to sell off piece by piece, in this particular case, the refinery. And I think that is something that we have to take into consideration, especially as people's organizations, as progressives. We have to fight back. And I'm happy that you're using this initiative so that the people in Curacao will know that what is happening is not an isolated thing to Curacao. It is part of a global effort to strip the Caribbean of more and more assets and resources. That is what it is.
Yeah. Johnny, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I have, I think, 4 questions. Let's start with the last remark from, let me see, your name is Roger, no? Answer, Roger? From Trinidad, your name?
Ozzy Warwick.
Okay, Warwick. I read an article written by a Guyana writer, Clive Thomas, Dr. Clive Thomas, who wrote about the pros and cons of small and mini refineries. And what he saw is that the politics of China and America was to change the bigger refineries into smaller ones so they could be cost effective. So if you look at it in a geopolitical manner, we are competition then for the smaller ones in China and America. That could be one reason why they have to eliminate all the small ones. But
Yes.
yeah, what I want to ask you is the trust issue between the union and the government. The government began a process, and the union was a bidder. How's your relationship now with the government? Are you getting leeway to organize yourself, to get all the finances together because you had made a bid, but now you have to implement
That's correct.
And to implement starting up the refinery and things. And then you need the trust from the government that you're going to do it okay.
Yeah.
Well, okay. I'm glad you raised that because that has been quite a bit of a journey. A journey in the sense that we are of the firm view as the union that the decision to close the company was a direct attack on us as a union. Okay?
As a
The
union.
government recognizing that they made a huge mistake by trying to come after the union because we're still here. So that failed. They recognize that the only chance they have, because this is an election year, is to ensure that the refinery goes back up because the country is losing scarce foreign exchange every day as a result of the refinery being kept closed.
Yeah.
So the relationship is one of, I would say, at this point in time, one whereby the state and the government recognize that they don't have a choice really. Because if this fails, if we are unable to do this, then they run the risk of losing the elections in this year. So we are very conscious of that. We this is why what we did was to form a company so that the interface between the government and the union is not direct. It is between the government and our company. We are the only shareholder, yes, but we also have a board of directors that interface with the government. We did that as a tactic so that in two things, one, the union can continue to do its work. We are not relinquishing our duty and responsibility as a trade union.
Yes.
And the second part is it is to dispel a myth that some of the propaganda coming from the government supporters is that how can the union run a refinery? The union is not running. Ozzie Warwick, I'm the head of education and research of the union. I am not going to the refinery to become an operator. I am not an operator. I am employed with the union, but the union is the shareholder and will give policy direction to the board and the management of Patriotic. Now, that is an important lesson there because people are of the view that the union itself is going to somehow run this refinery. That is not the situation. It's Patriotic Energies which will run the refinery. We did that as well to be a sort of buffer between what became a strained relationship between the union and the government, of course. We want to also make it very clear. We had to do that because there are other issues which the union have to speak out about. Issues around crime, unemployment, issues around labor legislation, those trade union issues that we have to keep speaking out about. Whilst even as our company lays with the evaluation committee and the government to be able to get the refinery up and running. The other thing I want to say is that we never forget, and we must never forget where we come from. And a process like this, you have many forces who are against it, with elements within the government, but also elements within the opposition, elements within the U.S. State Department, elements within the local elites. These elements and these forces will conspire to prevent us from getting what we want done. And in that light, it requires us from time to time, using our trade union tools to continue to put pressure so that the government can do what is right by this process. I hope I was
How did
clear.
you? Yeah, and you're very clear. I understand that the role of the union was very important on the political side, but you protected yourself by um, put an organization between you and the government, PET, the Patriotic Engineering.
Energy.
Energy,
Yes,
yes.
energy. How do you motivate your workers, your members,
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
to stay here?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
want
and
to
also
say,
and also one
yeah,
question to add to that. For I wanted to know also when you're going to answer the question that you also put into that how you manage to keep your workers
yeah.
let's say in Trinidad so that they don't go to work abroad because they are not getting salary or they are getting salary while you have the refinery closed.
Yes.
Put
That's
that
very
also in your
important.
balance.
Let me just use this opportunity to recognize the workers and our members. And I'll tell you
Yes.
why. On November 30th, 2018, in any normal circumstance where you have retrenched all your workers, that would have had a devastating effect on the union's membership because that was our largest unit. It meant 1/3 of our membership would have been lost. Thankfully, because of the leadership of the union, many of those workers, even being retrenched, maintained their membership within the union. So those workers stayed with the union. They continue to form part of the union's structure as they continue to pay dues, even in these circumstances, because they support the vision of what the union is doing. And those workers who have maintained their membership from November 30th, 2018 to now are really the true heroes of this story. Because without them and without they continuing to pay their dues in the circumstances, the union would not have been able to have the resources to continue its operation and to proceed with this process. These guys and women are the real heroes, these workers who believed in their union. And it tells us something. When working people, when the working class believe in their institution and give support to their institution, not other institution, their own institution, then you are able to really do amazing things. And I think it was incredible that they have stuck with us. They continue to be our membership, and they will be the workforce that will go back in when we begin the process of doing the upgrades and the turnarounds, and then when the refinery is operating once again.
But how are the workers are getting paid?
At the moment, they are not getting paid.
Okay.
That's why I say that they are the true heroes. They are not, many of them are still unemployed, and notwithstanding their unemployment status, they have maintained their support for the union. And that is what makes it incredible, because in normal circumstances, if you think about it, when a company closes, the union loses that membership, This is not what happened here. The company closes, we lost many. I'm not saying that we didn't lose many, we lost many, but at the same breath, many of those same workers maintained their membership in the union, even as some of them are unemployed and not working. There are provisions in our constitution that enables the continued membership of the union, even if you're not directly employed in a company. Our constitution, the founders of our union had the vision to do that. And I'll explain why that is important. We believe that those forces that wanted to attack us felt that if they take away our largest unit, we would lose all of the membership and lose a key part of our structure. But what they were not aware of, what they did not know, is that our constitution, when you are a member of OWTU, has nothing to do with a company. There is no mention in our constitution about company. Once you are a dues-paying member, you have all the rights and privileges as a member. It has nothing to do with company. And therefore, we were able to maintain our union structure even as these workers were not employed with Petrotrin anymore. And I think that innovation and that forward thinking and vision by our founding fathers and mothers is what gave us the opportunity to do what we did in spite of such a huge attack on the union.
Okay, so
Okay, that means,
so
may I, Natalie, may I finish the last question?
I just want to add something to that
Okay.
part. Okay, a moment. So what I have understand is that these workers are not getting paid, but during this year they will be able to find some other jobs or some other things to do
Right.
while they are waiting to the refinery to start again.
That is correct.
And that's the union did some things about, because we our problem in Curaçao is that the workers are afraid of bills that they have to pay, things that they have to pay to the banks, the cars, things like that. So everybody is afraid and accepting things that they don't have to accept because only because of the money. What do you what can you say about that?
Yeah, I think that is the reality for many workers. But you see, you have to understand that our union, we're 83 years old. We've been around for a very, very long time. And many of the workers who are members, their father were members, their grandfather were members, their great grandfather were members. So it is the union has a deep tradition. So even when we had that situation, and there were workers who felt that and they've left, but we had enough workers who were conscious enough to understand that the union is about to embark on a huge project which they will benefit from.
Okay.
And therefore they decided, listen, this is the union that has supported me, my father, my grandfather, my great-grandfather. I am going to give my full support to my union because whilst things are difficult now, whilst I'm suffering now, I can see a light at the end of the tunnel. My union will become the owner of one of the largest assets in the country. And that is something they felt proud of, and that is why they continue to give us support.
Yeah. Johnny, you have a question?
Yes. And for the future, you have organized and set up PET, the Patriotic Engineering. This company, your full shareholder. How you relate that? How do you relate those full shareholder and what you're gonna how you gonna maximize your relation with your workers?
Yeah. Well,
you will have dividends. You will have, if things go well, and God gives speed that things will go well.
Yeah.
You're gonna be a greater asset. But what's gonna happen with being as a union full shareholder? What are your future thinkings about it?
Well, there are mechanisms. I understand what you mean in terms of things like grievances that will come up because the union is not managing. So there are other people who will be managing, and there will be conflicts that can arise on the shop floor in terms of worker and management. But at least the workers can appeal to the union for relief. But there are also mechanisms that we are putting in place that are innovative and different to the usual confrontational industrial relations process that we currently have. In other words, we have an industrial relations system that is based on an antagonism between capital and labor, meaning that the management and the board who represents the interests of the shareholders, whose interest is only about profit. One of the things that we have never been able, especially in post-colonial societies, is to think about what happens if the workers themselves become the shareholders, if the workers themselves become the owners of the means of production. On a practical level, this is how I see it. How it used to be was like this. The workers have an issue with management. The workers bring the issue to the union. The union writes to the management requesting a meeting to discuss these issues. Management either meet and hostile, or they don't want to meet with the union. They don't want to talk to the union to discuss, let us say, health and safety issues. Okay. The union then has to use its mobilization on the ground, whether it's protest action, etc., in order to highlight the fact that the health and safety issues or the grievances are not being managed at all. What happens is that we therefore have many matters before the ministry and the court. Good.
Okay.
The shareholder in that instance, when it was the state, they didn't care. So management was never instructed to settle these matters at the shop floor. So the matters end up being prolonged in the court. In this instance, the workers have an opportunity if management is not paying them any attention on their health and safety issues, their grievances, or their negotiations. At least this time, the workers can go directly to the shareholder and say, hey, you know management has not provided us with PPE. Do you know that the management not meeting with us to discuss the health and safety issues? Are you aware that the management they're not settling grievances which can be settled on the shop floor? And then the management can be instructed to think. So it is really a paradigm shift whereby the power is now with the workers themselves, when before that power had to be exercised via protest demonstration. That power can now be exercised still with protests, yes. We will not give up that. We think protest and struggle is important. But at least when we protest and we struggle, the workers also have the power to instruct the management to do what is right and to provide justice.
Yeah, the information is okay, but I think my question was formulated wrongly. I was thinking at the State Oil Refinery of Denmark, State Oil Refinery of Canada. Now you have a union-owned refinery. So you'll be having profits if things go up. What is your future thinking about how you're going to manage, what your revenue is going to be, and how you see that into the development of Trinidad and Tobago then?
Okay, I'm still trying to understand the question. Now, one of the things that we wanted to do once we get the refinery up and running and so on is to have people's institutions like credit unions, right?
Okay.
Have a stake in Patriotic. So that it's the vision, the long-term vision is beyond just OWTU, but that other people's institutions like credit unions, etc., can be part of this.
Okay.
That's the thing.
You're gonna invest in humanizing the Trinidad Tobago community. Something like that.
Okay, I have a question. How are you going to deal with the fact that the majority of the refinery around the world are going to fossil-free fuel? How are you going to deal with that? Are you going to alternative generic also?
Sorry, you mean as you're talking about as the world shift more and more from hydrocarbons?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, that is why the union had the vision to call the company Patriotic Energies and Technologies. Mm-hmm. The reason we did that is because we are thinking real long term. So that we didn't call it Patriotic Oil Company, or we deliberately kept it generic because we believe that Patriotic needs to invest in research and development around alternative energy. So that transition, because at the international level, international trade union federations are discussing what is called a just transition. In other words, it cannot have a transition from hydrocarbons to renewable, if you may, and workers are displaced and workers are the ones who suffer. Just as that discussion is happening, we at the level of Trinidad and Tobago have already started to think about very long term, how do we implement a just transition and allow our company, Patriotic, to explore other types of technologies in that.
Natalie.
Yeah?
I have also a question, Mr. Warren. How are you going to pay back? What is the arrangement that you made with the government to pay back, to pay the government for what you have bought the refinery? So in terms of the 700 million, you have to start to pay it right now, or because I read something about in 3 years and in a quota that you can pay it in 10 years. Why is this important? Because if we're going to fight for we ourselves to go to make that shift, to go to own our own refinery and make it produce ourselves, we were thinking on a type of service center. So we don't own oil. We were not going to buy no crude oil. No, we are just going to operate our refinery as a service center. Service center means that that you just look for clients which come with their crude. Let's say if they can have a crude supply for 3 months or more, then they are a potential client to our service center, our refinery, which is a service center. Then the products we will just let's say charge them a transformation fee to transform their crude into that product for them, and they are going to market their product and they're going to ship it. They have to pay us 3 times to when they come with a crude. We will charge them to put their crude waiting to be
Processed.
store their crude waiting to be processed. Then that is one charge that you're going to charge them. Then secondly, the second charge will be the transformation fee that to transform their crude into product. And third, their product they cannot ship them very rapidly, so they have to be stored also. Then we also gain money by storing. Are my thinking right with a service center in your point of view?
Okay. In terms of the
So I
first
have two
question,
questions. One is how you going to pay the
Yeah.
government, in which time frame, and also the service center issue.
Okay. With regards to the first one, the arrangement that we have at the moment is that we have a 3-year moratorium. A 3-year moratorium. And that is necessary to enable us to do the refurbishment work, the upgrades, and the turnarounds. The other reason why we have a moratorium is because, as you can imagine, that aspect would also cost money. So we have a 3-year moratorium. We then have 10 years in which to pay off the 700 million US dollars. That is the arrangement. And the reason being, the idea behind that is so that the cash flow, cash and the revenue gained is what will be used to pay the state off. So we do not ourselves now have to go and be beholden to some financier who give us 700 million upfront.
Yeah.
The second part, the services is now one of the things that we recognize is that where the real wealth is not even in refining, in trading. Okay. And what has happened is that the Northern European and American companies they are generating their wealth from trading. We do not want to give added value to their traders. So built into our business plan is to engage in actual trading as well. So that what that means is that the refinery is really part of a wider business plan.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I think you fell out. Okay. I understand you, but because we don't have that experience right now in trading, I say that will be the second, let's say the second phase. But now the first phase, you have to stick to what you are good in, which is refining. And then maybe Trinidad can go to the second phase. But I don't think that Curacao right now can jump into the trading world because we don't have the experience. You understand?
Yeah.
But maybe with the help of Trinidad, you can learn from them. Yeah.
Now, one of our partners, one of our technical partners, is one of the world's largest trading companies. So the idea is to transfer technology and knowledge. That's we want to learn trading. So we are not pigeonholed only to refining. And that is why we partnered with an international trading company so that we too can learn trading so that we can share that. But with regards to services, the service part is important because in addition to Patriotic Energies and Technologies Company Limited, we also have Patriotic Energy Service Limited, which is in effect the company, in addition to the actual refinery, all those other services that are provided by others. We felt that our workers who are not employed in the refinery directly, but can also be employed in terms of the service company to provide services to the refinery.
Yeah,
Okay.
perfect.
Okay. I'm very glad that we had this conversation.
Thank you very much.
On the 15th of February, there will be a large manifestation there in Curacao. Right, Charles and Johnny?
Yes.
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 We're already giving information to
Oh,
the.
you left.
I don't know.
Giovanni, you fell out? I don't see
Yeah, hello?
anything.
Hello?
Hello?
Yes, you are back.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
Sorry, can you go again? I didn't hear.
Okay, I was saying on the 15th of February, there will be a large manifestation in Curacao, and Charles Cooper and Johnny are part of it. So I would like if you can communicate together, see if you can arrange that you can go to Curacao, supporting them in information to the people during that manifestation. That will be a good thing, I think.
Okay.
Yes,
Yes, okay, that sounds interesting.
I
Okay.
can give right now a live my what do you call it, my WhatsApp, and then
Yes.
we can stay in contact.
Yes,
It
I would
is,
like that very much.
Yeah, +5 3 times 9, so 5999
Yes.
529 0009.
Wow, lots of nines.
Yes.
So
So you have it?
5999
Perfect. You have it.
Because I think your knowledge and your experience from in Trinidad, there will be a good thing to empower there in Curacao.
Thank you very much for having me. I look forward. I have to tell you that I was in Curacao 3 years ago, when the trade union hosted a meeting, and I loved it very much in Curacao, and I would always love to come back.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ozzy, I will be in contact with you
Okay.
for further information or question that I will have. And I thank you very, very, very much.
I think, Natalie, with your permission, I think it's good for Mr. Warrior to give a final, let's say, a final 1 minute to empower the people of Curacao to take their future in their own hand. I would like you to do that for us.
All right, no problem. I can do a 1 minute thing, no problem.
Okay.
Okay. Goodbye, comrades. Okay.
Guys, stay on Skype. Please stay on Skype.
Johnny,